All right, so let us get into it. Before I go any further, I got something to show you. I'm so excited. There it is. This is my first proof of my new book called Sales Ex Machina. By the way, translation, Sales in the Machine, How Artificial Intelligence is Changing the World of Selling. So I wrote this with a longtime friend of mine, Dr. James Anderson, who has, listen to this, 5 degrees, 2 technicals, 2 bachelors, 2 masters, and a doctorate. He has a PhD in mathematical systems theory. And the background to this is, the background story is that I met James Anderson, Dr. James Anderson, way back when I first started as an intern, and he was working on an artificial intelligence torpedo system, and I tutored under him, right? So when I decided to write Sales Ex Machina, which I knew would be about artificial intelligence, I reached out to him, and he so graciously agreed to write the book with me. It's really a great book. The Kindle version is available. I mean, I went into detail in terms of, what expert systems are now doing. This will blow your mind. Listen carefully. This is the first book, not an exaggeration, not hyperbole. It is literally the first book on selling and how artificial intelligence is going to change the world of selling. There is stuff in here that is going to blow your mind in terms of what is happening today and what's going to be happening and how sales will get disrupted. There's good news and there's bad news, but I think it's mostly good news when it comes to this. So again, Sales Ex Machina. I got the title from, there's a Latin phrase called Deus Ex Machina, which means God is in the machine, right? When people couldn't explain why a machine worked, they say, well, God must be in the machine. It also meant that, in Greek theater, when God came down and resolved an issue, God was in the machine. So I took the title and say sales in the machine, because sales now are going to be done by machines. How we prioritize leads, how we prospect, how we target new markets are going to be done through artificial intelligence. The book is awesome. It's about 270 pages. So it's a good read. Available now on Kindle, and hopefully by mid-February, the hard copies or the softbacks will be available for your purchase. Anyway, let me see some of the questions here. Hey, Victor, still doing our thing. Appreciate that, Michelle. Keep doing your thing. Patrick Knapp says, hey, Victor, how would you build value in a service industry? I own a carpet cleaning company, and I find it somewhat hard to build the value. So on this one, Patrick, we're not going to be talking so much value, but I'll try to touch on it. In fact, I'll make a note of it, that I'll try to touch on value, okay? But I really just want to talk about the presentation piece. But, again, I think that's another workshop. I have a program on the Sales Mastery Academy. So write this down, salesmasteryacademy.us. That's my website where I have all my programs. It's my online platform. One of the programs on there, Patrick, is called Value-Centric Selling. That one has, I think, like 37 videos. I mean, it gets really in-depth into how to sell value. So take a look at it, salesmasteryacademy.us. All right, let me go through the 7 tips real quick, because it's Sunday. You guys are up. You're happening. You want some real tips. Let's get to it. All right, create a scenario in your head. You're going to talk to a customer, whether it's one-on-one, one to a group, or you're just doing a presentation where you're trying to sell your management on, some new budgets, right? Whatever it may be, you're in sales mode. You're trying to convince them, move the ball forward. So let's begin with some ideas of what should be in a presentation. Now, I'm only going to cover 7. And again, the laundry list is longer, but these are 7 that I think are worth kind of highlighting for you guys. The first one is that it's always good to open the presentation with things that we agree on. For example, if I'm trying to sell you sales training, let's agree on certain things. That right now, your salespeople are not closing as many deals as you'd like them to close. Would I be right, Mr. Customer? Would I also be right is that your deals are long. In other words, the sales cycle is so long, in order to close a deal, you're looking to close these deals. Would that be right, Mr. Customer? Is that a correct assumption? Yes, Victor, it is. And if you can increase the average order size by upselling and cross-selling, that's another way to generate revenue for your business. And right now, can we agree that your salespeople are probably not doing that as well as they should? Yeah, you're right, Victor. Now, what did I just do there? I basically tried to do the Vulcan mind meld on him, right? Star Trek reference, right? And basically what I did was say, look, I'm on the same page, man. I'm on the same page as you are. Right now, you know that you don't have enough opportunities. You know that the average deal size should go up, but your salespeople are not doing it. You know that you should shrink how long it takes to close a deal. Am I right? And if you do it correctly, he or she will say, yeah, you know what, Victor? you're right. And at that moment, you created some type of a launch point. Well, that's what I'm here to talk about today. Wow, what a way to really jump into a presentation. I like to do something like this. This is one of my many approaches, but this is one approach I really like. Notice in my presentations, and again, you're not there to see it, but this is what I typically do. I do not talk about who Victor Antonio is. I don't talk about myself or my company. Too often we go in there, we talk about, well, I work for da-da-da company. Here's our first slide. Here's who we are. Here's how long we've been in business. Here's our products. Here's our services. Here's how long, who we've worked with, and you show all the different logos. Customers are going, I don't care. First, show me that you understand me. And by finding points of agreement right at the beginning, it's a great launch point. Number 2, prospects remember 2 things: the beginning and the end. The beginning and the end. So your start has to be strong. Your finish has to be even stronger. So my question to you is, what is your start? I just gave you an example of what I like to do. I like to actually build some common points, points where we agree on. What is your kickoff? Within the first 5 to 7 minutes, if that, maybe the first 5 minutes, let's say 5 to 7 minutes, how strong are you coming out of the gate? In other words, giving them value right away. They go, this person understands. See, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the customer to go, man, this guy, this girl, he understands me. He gets it. And that's what they want. Get into it right away. Don't get into the knife. How are you doing? How are the family? How long have you been in business? I don't want to hear that. You should have done that research before you came into that office. So you're coming in there. You're locked and loaded. You're ready to talk business. And that's what people want. Also, it's always better to have a better ending than a better beginning. Let me highlight this. This is always interesting, right? By the way, if you have a great beginning and a great ending, that's what you want. That's the bookend, right? But if you had to choose which is the most important, the ending always has to be strong. As I learned on my show on Spike TV, Life or Debt, my director would always say, Victor, when you say something, he would always say to me, his name is Tim Warren, he would always say, Victor, stick the landing. You know when you see these gymnasts off the beam, right? They jump off the beam and then boom, they land, right? And boom, they always say they got to stick the landing. When you finish your presentation, when you ask for the order, you got to stick the landing. You got to be very clear. As you move towards the end of your presentation, again, the last 5 to 7 minutes, you have to stick that landing. You have to be very clear, very crisp in terms of what you want. Stick the landing. Number 4, here's a real subtle one. Very simple but subtle. Repetition is key. Several studies have shown this, so I believe this. If you say things one time, and let's say it's a 45-minute presentation, well, the rule of latency, it goes away. People won't remember that. The rule of latency kicks in. They may forget it. They found that the ideal number to repeat, the number of times you should repeat something that you want the customer to remember is 3 times. 3 times. 1, 2, they may not remember, especially after a 45-minute presentation. 3 times is the ideal number. They even tried numbers like 4 and 5 times, and what they found is that when you repeat things 4 or 5 times, it becomes almost insulting to the customer. So ask yourself, what 2 or 3 key points do you need to repeat throughout your presentation, and are you hitting that mark? Are you sticking the landing 2 to 3 times, 3 times at least, throughout your presentation? Take 2 or 3 bullet points and make sure you repeat them at least 3 times during your presentation, especially if they're key value points. Next, here was an interesting viewpoint, and I learned this a long time ago, that it's okay to talk about all the pros in your product. But something interesting happens when you bring up your own negative. Listen to this is really interesting. When you always talk about the great things you do, and then you just insert one small negative, and then you layer it with more good stuff. Call it a love sandwich, right? Talk about good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Mention one negative you have, and then more good stuff, good stuff. Get it? Good, bad, good. Love sandwich, right? And what happens is it gives you more credibility because the customer says, well, he actually mentioned a weakness. In other words, you're talking about we do this, we do this, we do this, and we do this. But Mr. Customer, I've got to be upfront. One of the things we don't do is this right here. And so it's something we've tried, but I can refer you, if that's really important to you, we can refer you to somebody. But here's some of the other services we do offer. See what I mean? Just inserting something that you're not good at, something that you don't do, is actually a positive. Studies have shown this. Next, when you have controversial issues with a client, right? What you're trying to do is find points of agreement. Goes back to my first point. Where can we agree? Where can we find points where we both agree? And again, what you're going to find is that today's customer wants you, listen carefully, wants you to challenge them. That's right. They want you to challenge them a little bit. In other words, you're going to ask questions like, Mr. Customer, I see that you decided to go with that product. Can you tell me what was your thought process when you decided to do it that way? Notice what I just said. Tell me what your thought process was at the time when you decided to use that system or go in that direction. And the customer now has a way. I said, well, Victor, when we made that decision a couple of years back, here's what we were thinking. And again, what you're trying to do is engage the customer by challenging them a little bit. And again, it's okay to challenge. Don't be a passive salesperson. In other words, agree with the customer. The other day I heard this statement again. The customer is always right. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're not always right. Now, when I'm trying to sell somebody something, they're not always right. Now, let me give you two examples. If I have a customer and the customer says, Victor, I didn't receive something, I'm going to assume that you are right. You probably didn't receive it and we screwed up. Okay, always assume that the customer is right, but always criticize, if not question, when they make a decision or tell you something that you go, that's not true. Because that's what you're trying to do, engage customers in selling. If you're going to be just passive like a blob and not challenge the customer, you're never going to engage them at a level where you want to get to. You're going to sound like everybody else because everybody goes into that presentation and everybody agrees with them. But don't you want to be that one person that says, you know what, I don't know if I agree with that. Now, you can find your way of saying that. Mr. Customer, you said that this is one of the ways you believe the things you need to do to grow your revenue, for example. I said, let me ask you a couple of questions. And that's where you begin your challenging questions. Again, you're challenging in a positive way. You're trying to help them. So bottom line is, during the presentation, don't be afraid to find points of agreement. But it's okay if you have points of disagreement, let's have those discussions. And usually that's where some of the good conversations come, and that's where some of the connection with your customer really come into play. Another one. At the end of your presentation, we talk about sticking the landing, right? This is number 7. You got to stick the landing. And by sticking the landing, you have to have a call for action. You got to do a quick conclusion, summary, conclusion, call to action. Summary, here's what we talked about. Here's what we agreed upon. Here's some of the conclusions we've drawn. So, Mr. Customer, the next step or the next logical step is, this is what we need to do. The question is, when can we get started? Whatever your call to action is, stick the landing, stick the close, okay? So those are 7. I want to throw in a bonus. This is number 8. This is a bonus. And this one is usually controversial, so I saved it for the end, and I threw this one in. This is bonus number 8. Introduce price early. Yes, introduce your price early into your presentation. Do not wait to the end. Here's why. Let's walk through it. I know some of you are going, no, Victor, well, if we present too early, we haven't built enough value. Here's what happens. If you're presenting to a customer, let's assume it's a 60-minute conversation. 60-minute conversation, right? And then you're talking. Our product does this. With our services, you can do that. Our product does this. And the customer's thinking, what? How much? And then you keep going. You're 20 minutes into your presentation. You're still talking about all the features and benefits and value you can deliver. The customer's like, yeah, but how much? And then the customer will ask, well, can you kind of give us an idea of how much this is going to cost? Well, you say, well, wait, I'm getting to that. Let me just kind of continue. I'll just show you a couple more things. And then you go on even another 20 minutes. At the 40-minute mark, the customer's still thinking, how much? You get the 50-minute mark, right? 1 hour conversation, you got the 50-minute mark, and finally, you drop pricing. And the customer's like, whoa, that's more than I expected to pay. Now, throughout that presentation, all the customer could think about is, how much? And then when you dropped it at the end, they said, whoa, that's more than I expect to pay. You know what? We need to think about it. Have you ever had that happen to you? What if you put the price more at the beginning of the presentation? For example, let's say within the first 10 to 15 minutes, you'll have to find your timing. You introduce price. Now, you can introduce price by saying, on average, something like this will cost this much, or do what I do, I like to present a range. Once I have an idea of what I want to sell them, I said, Mr. Customer, the price is going to be, let me get this out of the way, it's going to be somewhere between here and here. And I know that you're hoping it's going to be at the lower end, and I get that. Let me walk through some of the things I offer, and then let's see if we can find something that fits you. Now, just doing that in the first 10 to 15 minutes, here's what I've done. I've calmed the brain, that primal brain of the customers, that fight or flight, right? I've calmed it down because now the person at least knows the range. So let's say at the 15-minute mark, I introduce it. Customer now knows the range of the actual product, right? Knows the range, product range or service range. And then as I present, it has this, it includes this, you'll also get that. Now the customer's thinking, okay, I can see why this is going to cost a little more. Okay, so it also includes that. Okay, oh, so it also includes that. See, now every time I layer a value, after I present the price, he's adding that value to the price. He goes, oh, it includes that. It includes that. Oh, so it also includes that. Really? I didn't know that included that also. Oh, so I get that also. You see the difference, the dichotomy here? If you wait to the end to mention price, all they can think about is, how much. But if you give them the price early, they're now saying, okay, so that includes that. Is it worth it? Oh, that includes that also. I didn't know that. That is the difference in making a presentation. Again, it's very different than presenting price late. So my suggestion is bring up the price early. On that, let me go to see if you guys have any questions here. Let me see. No questions. Thought you might like this killer sales training. Okay, you were sharing that. Thank you for sharing that, LaDawn. But anyway, does that make sense? If you have any questions, type it in. And if you don't have any questions to type in, do me a favor. Tell me where you're from. Tell me where you're tuning in from. So anyway, those were the 7 tips. Should I go over them again? One more time, real quick. One, it's better, again, find points of agreement at the beginning where we agree. Mr. Customer, can we both agree that? And then you find points of agreement. Number 2, remember that customers remember the beginning and the end. Number 3, but if you had to choose one, they're going to remember the end. So you got to stick the landing. How many times should you repeat a message within a presentation? 3 times. Again, insert a negative to give you more credibility. It's a really powerful concept. What? You'll feel the difference. The customer's thinking, wow, Victor's being honest. He says he doesn't do that. I often get asked, Victor, do you do customer service training? Long list of things. I say I do this, and this. But one thing I don't do is I don't do customer service training. That's just not me. That's not what I do. But I do offer these other services. And you can see it in the customer's face. They're going, okay, he's being upfront. He's being honest. And if you want credibility points, that's how you do it. Again, challenge your customer. If there's going to be some controversial issues, let's deal with them in the room. Let's try to understand each other instead of being a passive salesperson. At the end, again, call to action, right? Stick the landing as you build up 5-7 minutes. Your last 5 to 7 minutes are the most important. It's like you're building momentum towards the end. You want to stick the landing. You want to ask for something. Don't just sit there and go at the end, okay, so what do you think, Mr. Customer? It's the horrible way to end your presentation. Know what you want from beginning to end. Know what you want. So when you get to the end, you ask for it and don't be afraid to ask. There was a study that showed that, when you look at people who ask for the order at the end, it was less than 20% actually ask for the order at the end of a presentation. Less than 20% ask for the order. So they know why you're there. You know why you're there. So let's not disappoint each other. Let's ask for the order. Then last but not least, that my bonus point was that present price early. That was number 8. Present the price early. Now, if you want more about presentations and notes, go to my salesmasteryacademy.us. That's my online platform. There's a presentation or a series in there, a module called Effective Sales Presentations. That right there will really help you build a robust presentation. I also have one that talks about, the new language. We talk about pricing, what people want to hear, total cost of ownership, return on investment, how fast can I get my money back? This is language that should be included in your presentations if you're trying to sell a high value product. So again, check out my website, salesmasteryacademy.us, or just go to victorantonio.com. You can get it from there also. But salesmasteryacademy.com, we're adding one new program. Next week, I'll be adding something called the hero story. How to create the hero story within a presentation so it has a certain, I'll say, drama to it. You know what I mean? So you can draw people in when you're doing a sales presentation. You could also use it to do any type of, idea or goal type of presentation. But using the journey of the hero, I'm going to show you how you can construct a powerful, compelling story. And by the way, for those of you who are speakers out there, you're going to love this because you can use that same framework to create a powerful presentation, a keynote from the front of the room. It's really a good program. And again, Sales Ex Machina, again, available on Kindle. How artificial intelligence is changing the world of selling. This is probably the most researched book I've ever done. I mean, I really there was like, almost 4 straight months of just researching what different companies are doing. So companies that are featured in here are Salesforce.com. They have an artificial intelligence program called Einstein. IBM has one called Watson, right? And if I can just highlight, by the way, we printed this one in color, so it'll be really cool for you guys to look at. Yeah, it's going to be cool. And some of the stuff in here is really cool. But like I said, when I won't spoil it for you, but there's a Trump analysis in here. Yeah, there is. There's a Trump analysis. I think you're going to like it. It's really cool. And by the way, what's cool about it was done by a machine. And I won't spoil it for you, but it's in here, and it was actually quite revealing and very fascinating. But by the way, the way this works, artificial intelligence and sales, machine learning, is that basically the machines are they write a program with some type of outcome they want. And what happens is, as they go through these processes, the machine learns. And if I can digress for just a moment, you can tune off. I'm done with the presentation. Just a quick note about what generated this book. And I was doing a large healthcare company. I was doing a 3-day workshop for them. And this is what I found out that just blew my mind to show you where this thing is going. What they do is they have a telecenter, telemarketers, right? And they have about, let's say, 200 people. Now, 200 people have to make 100 calls a day. 20,000 calls, right? If I got my math right? Yeah, 20,000, right? 20,000 calls a day come out of that center. What they do with machine learning, with computer programming, artificial intelligence, is that they record the actual voices. Let's say I'm the caller, you're the resident, right? I'm calling your house, right? So they record both voices, right? But here's what's interesting. They can actually pluck the receiver's voice, right? Like separate it, analyze it using keyword, pitch, volume, velocity, and how fast you talk, inflections, words that you use, or phrases or combination of phrases that you use, and they could predict with a 67% accuracy who they should call back to close a deal. In other words, I called you, we had a conversation, click, I didn't close it, right? The machine would then tell me this person warrants a callback just by analyzing their voice. And when they used the machine to do that, they were closing 67% of the deals. Think about that. Think about how it would be old school. You'd have to determine who you're going to call. Well, you don't have to determine that anymore. The machine determines who you call now. And based on just audio, they can tell who deserves a callback and who's more likely to close than not. Imagine what this is going to do for the world of selling and the world of prospecting. So again, there's a lot of examples like this in the book. So again, Sales Ex Machina out sometime mid-February. We're looking at February 15th. I don't think we'll go beyond that, but it is available on Kindle, so go check it out. Any questions? How suggest to close the contract suggest how to close the contract at the final of the presentation. Andres, al final, no? How do you close the deal at the end, right? And so remember, Andres, this is a great question because when you're looking to close a deal, again, I don't know what type of deal is it. So is it a B2B or B2C? Let's assume it's a B2B deal. If it's a big deal, you know that it's going to be very difficult because unless all the decision makers are in the room, and on average, you're looking at 6 to 8 decision makers to make a decision on a deal, you're not going to close it right there. But what can you do to move it forward? That would be my question. So here's what I would ask you to do, Andres. I want you to think about, in your head, what's the next step? If the next step is to close the deal, well, then let's figure out how to close the deal. But if the next step is to get the rest of the people involved so they can look at what you're offering, then that is the close. The close is to get the next meeting and have the right people in the room. If you're trying to close the deal right there, well, there's several ways you can do it. And again, I'll push you back to the Sales Mastery Academy because there's so many ways you can do it. But my favorite way is I always have 3 options at the end. 3 options. I always give them 3 options: low, medium, high, good, better, best, right? So I always have 3 options prepared if I know what I want to sell them already. I have the proposal already done, and I literally slide it right over. It says, based on what we've talked about, which of these 3 options would fit your needs today, and let them decide. That would be my quick close, right? So I would always have something prepared at the end and not guess. See, too often we practice the opening, we practice what we're going to say, but many of us don't practice the close. We don't. I've seen it. I've seen people not practice the close. They don't practice the close. They're like, yeah, I'll close when I get in there. No, practice the close. One of the things I always recommend is role playing. Do the presentation for somebody. You can do it across the table and then just move straight to the end and then do the close, do the role playing, have them push back, because that's the best way to learn, Andres. So that would be my suggestion on that. So anyway, on that note, I think we went past. We got somebody from Texas. Let me see. Sebastian Gaya Seneca joined us again. Thank you again. Chevy, thank you. Always supporting me, man. I appreciate you, man. My sister Dory joined us. Dory Mojica, that's my sister incognito. Thank you for joining, sis. And again, if you have any other questions, you know where to find me on Facebook, or just email me at victor@victorantonio.com. On that note, you guys have a great night, and then make it a great week. Take care.